Rom-coms. I've been requested to do a rom-com for quite a while. I don't have a lot to say about rom-coms. I like them, but they don't lend themselves to this kind of structure. So instead, we will be doing Basic Instinct from 1992. This movie has a lot of R-rated stuff and uncomfortable themes going on. So if you let your kids watch these, why would you do that? This may be a good one to skip. Or you can let them watch this and have them grow up very rapidly. It's up to you. We start with the opening credits. It's blurry naked people reflected on the facets of a diamond. It feels very James Bond. This spooky, off-kilter piece of music plays. And you better like this piece of music because it is prevalent throughout. It's even in scenes that aren't ominous at all. Imagine, hey, I went to Costco. There's some boxes in the car. I got a good deal on detergent. I saw we were running out. And in the background, there's... The credits end and we waste no time with two people having athletic intercourse on a lavish bed. We're not supposed to see precisely who the woman is. Her face is obscured by her blonde wig. The woman takes out a white scarf. She ties the dude's hands to the bed frame. They're enjoying each other's company when she slides an ice pick out of the bed sheets and stabs the crap out of this man. I practically missed this because I was supposed to be paying attention to the man getting stabbed, but I'm telling you, the butt model they used for this movie, she has a magical ass. It's flawless. I got lost in its spell. The buttocks drew me in. Hi, Editing Jess here. I did a little research and I found out that there are no body doubles in this film. So if you see an actor's ass, that's their ass. I won't tell you who the actress is because it'll give away stuff in the ending, but congratulations to them on having the best ass ever. Also, I didn't see this movie until years after it came out. So when I heard a lady kills people with an ice pick, I thought they meant a pickaxe. So I was like, wow, I wonder how she surreptitiously brings that into the situation. It's like, this is excellent sex we're having. Hold on one second, let me just reach under the bed and... Oh! What? This is heavier than I thought. Losing my balance. Dude gets stabbed with an ice pick. There's a horribly made paper mache head there for a second, and the cops show up. We see hills, and we glean that this is taking place in San Francisco. Nick Curran is a detective played by Michael Douglas, and we learn that the guy who was ice picked to death is a famous rock star. This rock star is a big, hairy deal to the mayor, so a major effort has to be made to find the killer. This rock star has a dope art collection. They keep skimming past it while they talk about his death. And I'm moving all over the place like... It's revealed that the rock star's girlfriend is Catherine Trammell, a woman who writes novels under a pseudonym and has 2 degrees, one in literature and one in psychiatry. This woman is bonkers rich. Based on what I know of San Francisco real estate, her house cost roughly $6 billion. Catherine is played by Sharon Stone. Catherine Trammell is unabashedly open about who she's bumping noodles with, which kind of throws Nick the detective. He is intrigued by her beauty and forthrightness. But he can't stay chatting with Catherine because he has to meet hot brunette therapist named Beth. Turns out he's been having sex with hot brunette therapist named Beth, which I don't know much about doctor ethics and whatnot, but I feel like that's a no-no. Nick has given up cocaine and drinking and smoking, and has clearly done something to warrant him having to go to a police-mandated therapist. He takes a look at one of Catherine's novels, and the way the rock star is killed with the white scarf and the ice pick, that's taken directly from the book, which means either Catherine did it or someone is using her writing as inspiration. Also, Nick's partner is a guy named Gus, and you can clearly see that the writers watched a lot of noir films, because every line he says is like, when that dame walked in, I knew those gams were gonna make Nick crazier than a Christmas fruitcake. Look who's here, it's Newman from Seinfeld. He's the district attorney and he's going to interview Catherine. Catherine shows up to the interview looking like a sexy cyborg. Everyone goes into the interview room and it is the complete antithesis of any interview room ever. It looks like it's being filmed in a subway under those sidewalk grates. It's not even mood lighting anymore. Catherine has a cocky answer to every question and smokes even when they ask her to stop. What are you going to do? Charge me with smoking? And then she uncrosses and crosses her legs. This is famous because you get to see. I used to think you only saw the Triangle of Venus, but no. There's the shutters and the drapes and just a little bit of the Venetian blinds. It's all there. Catherine is obviously very smart and she keeps baiting Nick. We learn he shot some tourists while all coked up, and that is why he has to go to hot brunette therapist named Beth. Speaking of therapist Beth, there's a scene coming up. Nick's back to drinking and smoking. That's not good. Nick and Beth go back to her brown apartment. This is a very brown film. Sometimes they jazz it up with a little beige, but if you're looking for color, go somewhere else. Anyway, they're back at Beth's apartment, and here are some important logistics. If you are standing behind someone and you want to kiss them, no matter how far you turn your head, it will still look like a bison getting fed a piece of bread through a car window. Sexy. Nick is all riled up after meeting Catherine. Guys, It's a rape scene. You may say, hey, maybe it's up for debate. Maybe the lines are vague. No, they're not. Nick rips her clothes. He slams her over the couch. She says no vehemently several times. Aside from shooting off a flare gun directly into his face, she gives every signal that she is not on board with what's happening. Nick and Beth have a chilly, cuddling moment after this, because this was clearly written to be kinky and show how Nick is getting more experimental, but it's still a rape scene. Beth mentions that she met Catherine when they were both at Berkeley. We learn that everyone around Catherine has either died or killed someone. Her parents are dead, it's an accident. Her fiance is dead, that's an accident. Her professor is dead by ice pick. The dude she was stooping is dead, a lot of bodies. She also likes to associate with killers. She says it's for her novels. Nick goes to Catherine's house, and there is research about him all over the place. She's writing a book based on his career and the tourist killings and all that. She makes them a drink and chops the ice with an ice pick. I like rough edges. Nick is trying to get information out of her, and she is just digging into him. She has a whole conversation almost kissing him, which looks hot from our perspective, but I imagine all each of them can see is blurry eyeball and part of a nostril. She's really giving him a hard time. She's calling him shooter, and then she says that she knows that Nick's wife killed herself. It looks like he's turned on and repulsed by her at the same time. And now we meet Catherine's girlfriend, Roxy, because this was written by dudes, and they love themselves a little girl-on-girl kissing. This movie was made for and around and through the male gaze. Don't you worry about it. There's some other stuff that happens, whatever. Therapist Beth gave Nick's confidential file to Internal Affairs, and somehow Catherine got it, and that's how she knows that Nick's wife killed herself. The Internal Affairs guy gets shot in the head, and everyone thinks it's Nick because he is justifiably pissed about his file. So the police department puts him on psych leave pending an investigation. Catherine comes over. Nick says he's going to keep following her even though he's on leave, and they meet up at midnight in a discotheque modeled after the Limelight in New York. It is playing the most generic 1990s dance music ever. A goodly portion of the people are dancing in a style I can only describe as aggressive Zumba. Nick and Catherine finally make out. Roxy, the girlfriend who is solely in this film for titillation, dances angrily at them, and then Nick and Catherine go to Catherine's home to bang it out. They're naked immediately. They kiss like mud skippers battling for mating rights. And then she does the scarf thing where she ties his hands to the bed frame. She's vigorously writhing, the music picks up, and she collapses on top of him. We don't know if she's ice-picked his ass, but she pulls away and he's fine. They were just having shenanigans in the bedroom. Now a bunch of stuff happens that I don't really care about. Nick takes his partner Gus to a late-night diner because Gus is drunk and needs to eat chili with hot sauce to sober up, which, my God, that will not end well. Gus gets into his Cadillac and drives away, and while Nick is walking to his car, Catherine's fancy, Lamborghini, it's a very distinctive black car that we've been seeing throughout the film, starts tailing him. The lights are blasting in our eyes so we can't see who's driving. Nick turns around and the car hits him. As he's lying on the ground, the car backs up to try to run him over, but he moves out of the way. He jumps into another car to follow Catherine's vehicle, and this is ridiculous. This piece of shit Taurus cannot do the things that it is doing. He's driving up flights of stairs. He's Tokyo drifting. He goes over a hump and the car gets airborne. Come on! The axle would have flown off and killed one of the sea lions at the pier already. They end up driving at each other, Chicken, I believe it's called, and one of them has to flinch or they will collide head on. Catherine's car does it. It jerks violently to one side and falls off a bridge type thing. Smashes into the earth and ends up upside down. Nick runs down there because it could be Catherine that was chasing him. But no, it's Roxy and she's dead. She is hanging out the driver's side window that exploded into a million shards and she looks perfect. While all the cops are yelling about how Roxy died and whether Nick has anything to do with it, they attach the body bag and gurney to a winch and she just glides across the screen. They could have carried her up the embankment like normal people, but instead she's hoisted away like an angel at the Christmas pageant at your local church. Do not be afraid. For see, I am bringing the good news of great joy for all the people. Because now people keep dying around Nick, he gets called into the police conference room to meet with therapist Beth and 2 other psychologists. Oh, I noticed this. While the psychologists are grilling him, one of them has a holographic watch, which is totally out of style with this movie. Alternate title, Sex and Murder in Browntown. I was like, did that come with his breakfast cereal or is he just a big Lisa Frank fan? The psychologists get out like one question before Nick flies off the handle and he walks out the door. Therapist Beth is all like, are you sleeping with Catherine? And Nick's all like, yeah, why do you care so much about her? Therapist Beth says she only cares about him. This is important later. Nick drives his totally functional Taurus to Catherine's house, where she's in a rocking chair exactly like the mom in Psycho. She's crying and messy because of Roxy. She says, everybody I care about dies. Nick kind of cradles her head and comforts her, and it's like, did you not just hear what she said? You need to hire a food taster now because your life's in jeopardy, dude. So they have sex, and as they're lying next to the fireplace. Catherine talks about some girl she hooked up with once in college who got real stalky and started copying her hair and her clothes. Her name was Lisa Oberman. Nick is back at the station. We learn that Roxy killed her brothers, Kel Surprise. Everybody's sleeping with each other, and everybody's killing each other. Caligula was not this debauched. Nick goes to Berkeley and looks up Lisa Oberman, but she's not in the records. Nick then goes to Catherine's house, where Catherine is hanging out with this older lady who killed her whole family with a knife. It's like, whatever. Nick is like, why you lying to me, bitch? There's no Lisa Oberman on record at Berkeley. Catherine gets all pissy. I said Hoberman, and Lisa Hoberman does exist on file. Now, I need to address what's about to happen. I took screenshots because it's so bad. Nick goes on the computer at the police station and goes into the DMV files because they have headshots of all the people. He types in Lisa Hoberman and, oh my god, it's therapist Beth. Then he checks her 1983 license when she was in college with Catherine, and guys, it is obviously a picture taken the same day as the 1992 headshot. The only difference is they put the worst blonde wig in existence on this woman's head. They didn't use 1980 style makeup. They didn't change the shape of her eyebrows. Nothing. Therapist Beth looks identical except for the plastic candy floss they call her hair. Look, 1992 Beth, 1983 Beth, now Beth, then Beth. I know it's supposed to be a serious scene with serious music playing, but I cackled out loud. Nick breaks into therapist Beth's apartment and confronts her about everything we just covered. Beth said after she slept with Catherine, Catherine was the one who developed the fixation. Beth said she changed her name from Lisa Hoberman to Beth Garner because she married a doctor who called her Beth, and she kept his last name even after they divorced. Now Nick doesn't know what to think. Who's telling the truth? Nick goes back to his apartment and Catherine is lurking in the lobby. She's being all coy and whatnot, and Nick's having none of it. Catherine says she's telling the truth and Nick can check. She filed a report with campus police. Nick goes to the archives at Berkeley, but the file is missing. And the internal affairs guy who was shot in the head took said file. Now Nick and Gus fight. Nick thinks that Beth killed everyone. Gus thinks that Catherine killed everyone. When Nick gets home, Catherine has broken into his apartment and is waiting with a gigantic houseplant. She says her book is almost done, and does that mean that Nick is gonna die? Nick goes to check out Beth's story about having a doctor ex-husband, and he's dead because he was shot. Nick speaks to the local cop, and it turns out the internal affairs guy was asking the same questions about Beth, and he was shot too. At this point, one could deduce that Beth is killing anyone that gets too close to her frankly concerning backstory. And maybe she is also trying to frame Catherine for the rock star's murder because Beth has issues with Catherine. Unresolved beef, one might say. Nick goes back to Catherine's house. The dot matrix printer, I miss that sound, I found it so comforting, is feeding out the book, and Nick sees the lines. I'm gonna read this. Shooter raced, pounded the button, up the staircase. His partner's body, elevator, legs sticking out. Catherine comes out and she is cold as ice. She says her book is done, so goodbye, Nick. Catherine was pretending to care about him just to get fodder for her character. Nick is confused because who the hell does that? Nick walks outside, kind of shell-shocked, when Gus pulls up. He says he just got a call from Catherine Trammell's roommate from freshman year, so they book it to Oakland to meet her. What could go wrong? Gus says the roommate knows all about Catherine and Lisa Hoberman, and Nick sits there looking like a forlorn potato. They get there and Gus says he'll be in suite 405, but Nick can't come up because he's still on leave. Do you smell that in the air? It is the smell of foreboding. Nick is sitting in the car when he remembers what Catherine wrote about the dead partner, and he's like, Gus! And he runs into the building and goes up the stairs. Gus steps out onto the 4th floor, and it is stabby, stabby, stabby with an ice pick. It's someone wearing a raincoat with a hood, so you can't see who it is. Gus is all, and the blood is all, Nick finally gets up the stairs, and when he gets to the 4th floor, Gus is laying in the elevator, dead, with his legs sticking out. Nick grabs Gus's gun. Remember, he doesn't have a gun because he's on leave, and he runs down the hallway in pursuit of the stabby stabber. He turns around, and therapist Beth is standing there. She said she got a message to meet Gus, and Nick is freaking out. Therapist Beth starts walking towards him with her hand in her pocket, so Nick shoots her, and she falls down very convincingly. He reaches into her pocket, but it's not a weapon, it's the apartment keys he gave her when they were dating. So that's an oopsie for Nick. When the cops show up and check the stairwell, they find a bloody raincoat, a blonde wig, and an ice pick. That's where Beth entered from. So she probably stripped it off and pretended to arrive when Nick was in the hall. In Beth's apartment, they find the gun that was used to kill the doctor ex-husband and the internal affairs guy. And there's a drawer in her kitchen filled with Catherine Trammell books and article clippings. It's all pointing directly to Beth, neat and tidy. The cops are all like, congrats, Nick, you solved it. But Nick is not feeling the glee because let's recap his evening. Catherine gave him the old bye Felicia. His partner was ice-picked to to death. And the lady he had a relationship with, he shot her in the chest, plus she killed a bunch of people. I feel Nick is entitled not to celebrate at this time. Nick goes home in his miraculously still functioning Taurus to find Catherine in his apartment standing silently by the window, which is terrifying. She says the reason that she blew him off is because she loses everyone and she doesn't want to lose him. Then they have relations while she weeps, which I'm sure is doing it for somebody. When they're lying there, she says, "Where do we go from here?" Nick says, "We just bang for the rest of our lives and live happily ever after." She reaches down under the bed and it's like, why are you doing that? There's tension, but it comes to nothing. They just make out. And then the camera pans down and there's an ice pick under the bed. Oh shit, everybody. It was Catherine all along. She fooled everyone. I think it's unfair to be so smart to be able to pull that off and be rich and be a famous author and be as beautiful as Sharon Stone. It seems stacked disproportionately in her favor, but it's a great film. Some things have not aged so well. Hello, rape scene. But the twist is very twisty. This is a bad choice for like Thanksgiving. You know, let's all gather around the TV post-prandially and watch a film as a family. But if you're home on a rainy Saturday with 2 hours to kill, this is a good choice. And I hope you're staying hydrated during this hot summer weather.